Hey guys, Richard here. So I'm gonna be very frank with you. I'm a marketer. I'm a marketing tech. I love marketing. I do a lot of side projects. I have a lot of startups I'm doing, micro startups, whatever you want to call them. And finance and trading is just one part of that. Like, it's just a very part-time thing, right? So two things I just want to point out. One is, this is not financial advice. This is simply just how things have worked for me as just doing it part-time. Maybe you're watching this video because, you're working in HR and you just want to make a bit of money on trading and crypto and stuff. So this is just general advice. Once again, it's not something that's going to, it's going to like, oh, you got to follow this and you're going to make tons of money. It's definitely not. This is just how things have worked for me. And number two is something I just reiterated. I'm doing this part-time. This is not a full-time trading strategy. You're not staring at, you're not going to go, I'm not going to tell you go buy like 5 monitors and stick it out there and then, so you can monitor the market. This is just very part-time. This is just what I do on my spare time on the side. I do look at the stock market daily, or at least every couple of days at least, to keep an eye on things, what's going on, find opportunities to, for example, to sell. So definitely I do all that stuff. But once again, this is not financial advice. This is simply just, a normal marketer just trying to make a bit more money on the side. So hopefully this video helps you, and let's get straight into it. Okay, so I'm going to be using Miro. So the first concept that I want you to think about, is what I think about at least, is when to take profit, right? Now, a lot of people trading out there, it's unbelievable that they're literally, I'm not going to say that it hasn't worked for some people, but they're literally sitting on like a huge amount of profit or a huge amount. They just want to keep climbing. They don't want to sell anything. And if you look at the recent the meme stocks and stuff, literally all of them crashes. I literally had a friend who had made so much money and then it crashed and he literally lost all that profit, right? And it's going to happen with more volatile stocks and stuff. You can just focus on, blue chip or even just more steady growth stocks and stuff like that. It's really up to you to figure out that. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But in my opinion, if you're doing more short to medium term trading, especially if it's in a couple of months or maybe even just in a year, learning how to take profit is going to be important. Now, this is just, once again, my strategy. Do not follow it because you need to figure out your own. But what I do is I just do something simple like this. If it's risen by by 10%, I'll take 33% out. So if I spend 10k on something and it's gone up by 10%, I'll take my 33% of profit from that stock or crypto, even. Now, this really varies, but I'd say the next bunch, especially if it's growing fast, I will take a look. But generally, the 10% for 33% is my foundation. But generally, let's say 20 to 30% profit, I'll take another 33%. I like to keep it simple. I think a third is really easy. And the rest is to the moon. I literally go to the moon if I really think this thing's gonna ride. Even if I think, for example, I got the next Tesla, I will pull out at least 33%. This is a maybe, depending on if I think I've got the next Tesla, and then to the moon for the rest is generally how I do things. But even then, if it's to the moon and I think, oh crap, it's gonna crash, I will take it out. And I'd rather reinvest it later if I think, once it stabilizes, for example. Now, on the other side, it's really important to put a stop loss. Now, some people will put, one of my friends who trades a bit more passionately and, regularly, he'll put a stop loss, like a 5% or 2%, I don't know, depending on what strategy he's doing, short term, etc. It's really important to figure out yourself. For me personally, I just figure out a general consensus of, when this stock's gonna crash, when this stock's or crypto is done for, right? And I'll try to pull it out as early as possible if I think that, but it's really up to you. But learning what your stop loss is going to be really important to minimizing your losses, because trading is not a upwards game. You're going to be having a lot of losses as well, unfortunately. And if you're looking at it on a short to medium term basis, you need to figure out what stop loss there is. If you're going really long term, sometimes you can just leave it. I've left something. Actually, it's a good example. I left my crypto back in 2017. For a very long time, right? And only recently I cashed it out because I still believed in it, right? I still believed that there was an opportunity for certain altcoins that I have, and I've made probably 10 to 20k just leaving it there. So honestly, it's really up to you to understand what your stop loss is. For example, that 10 to 20k, I didn't really need, to be honest. So I just let it stay there. But if you really need that money, then maybe you need to pull it out. It's really up to you, your financial situation, which is why I like to say, which is why I hate giving advice generally, because I don't want you to lose money. Obviously, gaining is what everyone wants. So it's really important to only invest on what you're happy to lose, honestly. It's what everyone says, but it's pretty honest, to be honest. And if you're really afraid, then just put everything into index fund. And honestly, that is something I'm going to be looking at personally. All the profit I've made, I literally has shoved into a house recently. So I'm going a bit more long term since I'm getting a bit older. But once again, if you're younger, you can take a bit more risk. But once again, that's really up to you. And in my opinion, learning what your stop loss is going to be really important, as I said. So yeah. So I think personally, it's up to you to figure out that stuff out. I just like to keep it general. Some people like to put an actual stop loss. Some tools let you do that, but that's really up to you. So yeah, once again, this is just the first concept which I want to talk about. Now, I like to trade both short-term and long-term. So when I look at long-term, I'm looking at what's going to be huge in the 5 to 10 year mark, right? And in my opinion, for example, one of the big industries which I think will get a lot of traction, once again, not financial advice, but it's biotech, right? I think biotech is going to be huge. And I definitely have taken positions in certain biotech companies, and I'm not going to name them because just in case you take it and then like they go down and then you're going to blame me. But in industry-wise, hopefully that's safe enough for me to say. Now, obviously, finding the good industries to invest in short to medium term is also really important. So, for example, for me, in the last half a year, for example, there's one industry which I've been looking at and investing heavily and taking like profits and stop losses and stuff like that, and that's basically the EV battery industry. So that's an industry which I've personally have been looking at and following quite heavily, and I've been investing into companies that have made a lot of money. I've made a lot of money from, and I've lost a bit of money as well from certain companies. So it's really up to you to figure out what are the industries that you want to go after. In my opinion, obviously diversification is important, but I mean, sometimes focusing on industry and learning the industry inside and out is going to be really important. What's going to hype it up? What's going to, crash it? And yeah, I picked one industry which I thought, would perform quite well and has performed quite well for me. So yeah. Now, you've probably heard of the next thing I'm going to talk about, but it's going to be something you have to learn because it's going to save you a bit of money, honestly. And that is your fundamentals and your technicals, right? And honestly, my technical skills are terrible, but I have an understanding enough that I know when is the right time to buy, at least, right? So with fundamentals, it's really obvious, right? Do you trust in the company? Like if you're investing into a startup, what are you going to be looking at? Their revenue, how much money they're growing, like how their growth rate is, who's operating the company, etc. In a way, you are kind of thinking about that. Like if I'm investing into a business or startup, it's the same thing. If I'm investing into this company, who are they? Who are the people? Do they have a track record of growing a business, for example, especially if it's a smaller company? So that's up to you to really figure out. So the fundamentals are going to be really important because if they have good fundamentals and you think the business is undervalued, well then you can put money into it and you can hold onto it because you're playing for that long term. Now obviously you can do a combination of fundamentals and technicals for a medium term trade. So for example, I put out Google here. Now I'm not going to teach any technicals. But for example, using an RSI is going to be really obvious on when to, a good time to take a position in. For example, this is really oversold, and if it's up here, it's really overbought. Very simple. Obviously, this is not like, there's different ways to look at it. But when I'm buying something, I'll quickly switch to a trading views chart, and I'll take a look at if it's a good time to buy it. Generally, I do not like to buy it if it's like really overbought. I personally I feel like I'll probably not make as much money, and I'd probably have missed the boat, for example. So I like to buy in the middle or even oversold if it's like I believe in the stock, especially for example in Google. If you believe in it, in their recent amazing revenue numbers and amazing results recently, well obviously they perform quite well. So it's really up to you to figure out your own technicals and fundamentals and what works. For me, it just gives me a bit of a guide to figure out when to buy it. Obviously, people use their own technicals as a bible to trade short-term stocks. I don't do that. I just look at some of the more major indicators to see if it's a good time to buy or not. So yeah, fundamentals, technicals are gonna be important. If you don't want to learn technicals, just learn your fundamentals and go long. Like honestly, that could be another way to do it. Especially if they're growing hugely, they have a huge market penetration soon. Their new product's gonna be great. And no one's buying the stock, well maybe you have a bagger and you want to put some money in now before other people have figured it out, right? And that's the thing, right? When you're trading, trust in yourself, right? Obviously it's good to get advice, but trust in yourself. If you think the stock's going to rise and the fundamentals are good and people aren't buying it, well maybe because they haven't spotted it yet, right? And if you buy early, you're going to make much more money later, right? So that's up to you to really figure out. And the final point is consistency. I just wrote it here already. And that's really what's going to drive everything, right? For me personally, consistency is what's going to be really important for you to drive your own profits. what I've said in this video is just give you an understanding of what you should be kind of thinking about and doing overall. But overall, this is the foundation, right? Consistency, right? No matter if you're looking at an industry, you have to be consistent in keeping up with it. Your company companies that you invested in, you be consistent seeing what's going on, what's happening. Did they change? Did they kick out the CEO and put in like a crappier CEO? And with stuff like, for example, with crypto, just looking at like how volatile and like what the actual technology is doing and stuff like that. And even just like, your basics from your profits, stop losses, fundamentals, technicals, it's all consistency, right? One thing I like to point out, one thing I love to do is I actually like to put a spreadsheet with the ticker symbol, when I bought it at, when I sold it at, the quantity obviously, and then a profit margin and a loss margin. And I like to actually put together a kind of like a total amount at the end, because I like to actually see that number go up. And over time, you're seeing that $50 or even $500 or $100 or $20 or $2 or whatever profit you're making. If it's going up over time, it's gonna keep you motivated. I think motivation is a big part of trading. A lot of people get demotivated if they lose, or over time they just get demotivated in general, because it does get kind of slightly boring, I'd say, to be honest. Yes, I did say it, making money can be boring, but it can get boring, and that's why a lot of people don't do this, right? This is why I do it part-time, right? And so really it's about, finding your own way. I like to do that because it motivates me seeing that number goes up and eventually hitting the kind of like the gold creme, what am I saying? Anyway, the 6 figures amount, right? And then I got to, invest that money into a house, which I bought recently. And that's something that's really amazing for me, right? And it's really up to you to figure out what motivates you. Sometimes maybe you just need a goal, right? I want to aim for 10K at the end of the year, or 10K for next year. And it's really up to you. Everyone has different financial goals. Everyone's making different types of money. And so it's really up to you to figure out what's best for you. But hopefully this video helps you at least kind of like get that started. I made this video personally because people were asking me, and I realized, like, you're just trying to ask me for like what the best stock to buy is, and that's not the way to do things, unfortunately. There are going to be tons of videos out there, and you might follow them blind, and you might end up losing money because you're following them, because in the end you got to kind of trust yourself, right? And you got to actually set up your own kind of like way of doing things. It's like work, right? You have your own way of doing things, and trading is the same thing as well. So yeah, hopefully this video helps, and leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you like this video or you don't like it, whatever. Just say hi even, and I'll see you in the next video.